Welcome back to another Wisco Fanatics. Mike, myself, Tyler is here. He is running an update on his computer. We all love technology, especially when it doesn't work. That's our favorite thing of all time. We need to switch to red and black, so bear with me here. And then on top of that, we are going to. So here's the rundown of the episode. We're going to talk about Badgers win versus Nebraska. Absolutely slapped them around for 40 minutes. They got close for a few seconds there in the first half, but then the Badgers took over. Got some Bucks games. Bucks went 2-2 in the week. Had a very interesting week of games for the Milwaukee Bucks, but we will get into that as well. So let's hit this intro and we will get going on Badgers.
Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
What up, Taylor? How you doing? Thanks for watching on the YouTube. Really appreciate that, my man. We are going to get into it right now. We are going to start with Badgers basketball versus Nebraska. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
We're doing good, man. I had to wear the In Guard We Trust shirt this week.
Oh yeah.
For obvious reasons, we're back to going on a decent streak here, and we're sure as hell gonna need this because we got a tough one tonight.
Yeah, we are. In my opinion, before I let you go here, we are kind of in. People when they talk about guard are getting a little disrespectful because I got some stats here that I'm going to share before we wrap this all up. But you cover the guards for us, so why don't you get us started, man?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This was it was an interesting game for the guards. I mean, we had some dudes that stepped up, and I'm going to talk about my boy here that I've been tooting about all year. But I am going to start with Max Klesmit. He had 26 minutes. 8.7 rebounds. I do think if you watched him play against Nebraska, he's still trying to get back into his groove a little bit in terms of shooting. I mean, if there's one thing that you look at the box score and just watching him play, he did shoot 2 of 8 from 3. One of the threes that he didn't make in that second half, finally when he made one, he just threw his hands up in the air. He was like, finally I can fucking make one, So right. I think in terms of getting his groove back with in terms of shot selection and just getting in that rhythm, you can clearly tell he's still working on it. Mm-hmm. Maybe part of it is his health too. Maybe still trying to get back to 100%. After he rolled his ankle a week or two ago. So still, hopefully we're gonna need him back at full strength. Tonight we're gonna need him. We're gonna need him the rest of the way. So hopefully he can get his shot down because we're gonna have to rely on him for big games this season. Then I'm gonna talk about Jack Janicki next. I think he played his best game so far this year. He came in off the bench, played 11 minutes. 7 points, 1 rebound, 1 steal. He including 1 3-ball and 1 poster dunk that he had over Nebraska's big man. Nobody, including myself, and I'm assuming including you, and maybe all the Badger Nation, did not expect him to dunk that at all over the big man. I think it caught the fans kind of off guard too at first. If you listened to them, they were just like, whoa. And so it just dunked over the big man. But no, decision making was great. And like I said, I think, as a bench player, he played his best game of the year. And it's probably the most minutes that he's gotten in a little while too. Because prior to today, he was struggling a little bit too, trying to get on the court, making something happen. He wasn't getting any more than 5 minutes a game like this whole last week of a stretch. So it was good to see that from Janicki. Again, we're going to need him in crucial moments too throughout the year, whether it's other guys getting in foul trouble or anything along those lines. I mean, any one of our, first 7 guys that play for us can go off at any point in time. And, Janicki kind of fits the bill for that. So it was good to see from him. And then finally, I got to give my flowers to Cam. I know we had a couple other guys that had good games here, but I think you could honestly even argue this guy was player of the game for making big shots in crucial moments. In my view right now, I think Kamari McGee is the 6th man of the year in the Big Ten, and I don't think it's remotely close right now if you look at across the scheme of things. I said going into the year that my bold prediction was that he would be all defensive team. I know he's a stout on D2, but I think I was off on that prediction. I should have done 6 man of the year instead, but no. You can't really ask much more. He played in 18 minutes, 11 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. This dude is damn near automatic from 3. He was 3 of 5 from 3. He's right around that 55, 56% range yet from 3 this year, which is just incredible for like how far he's come from the last 3 years he's been with, whether it was with GB or with the Wisconsin program. He talks about it all. He's talked about it in interviews. In the offseason, he was just getting, shots up until he couldn't really move his arms anymore. So you can tell, with that work ethic, whether it's, his shooting, and even in the weight room too, you can see it as well. The one crucial part that I'm going to call out is I think he needs more minutes. I think he needs 20 plus more. He needs 20 plus a game at this point. I've talked about it in shows past on here. I still think he deserves, more 20 plus for, going forward. So the one stat I want to call out with him, the Badgers are 8-0 when he is in double figures. So just throwing that out there. And then I just want to call out the team real quick. We forced 55 points on Nebraska, and with their play style, that is very impressive, I think, considering what the type of up-tempo scheme that they like to play. Their leading scorer, Bryce Williams, who came in averaging 19 points a game, held them to 12 on 4. So kudos to the defensive efforts by the Badgers, especially after giving up 80 plus to UCLA. And I hope I'm not taking your thunder when I take this stat from you. I was going to throw out John Rothstein's tweet, just comparing the offenses from this year and the Final Four teams. So
I saw that.
You did? Okay.
No, I didn't write that down. That's not what I've written down.
So I did want to call this out because, as your traditional Badger basketball fan, we know usually our teams don't score many points in games, right? So I just want to throw this out there because this is just a stat line that's just incredible. This year after the Nebraska game, the Badgers are now averaging 82.5 points a game. Who would have thought that, right? They're averaging 15.3 assists per game, 47.2 field goal percentage, 36.2% from 3. That is damn near impressive. And just for comparison, I'm just going to call it one Final Four team. In comparison to the Final Four team that made the final game, Duke, they averaged 71.9 points per game, 12.7 assists per game, 48% field goal percentage. That's good. And 35.7 3-point field goal percentage. So if you're going to align those stats together, that's good company, right? So I think the one thing you would argue as if you're seeing that, maybe that Final Four team is just a little more efficient. But, as far as the offensive side of the ball, I think, this program's done a complete 180 in terms of what how we do things and the tempo, obviously. And it's just, it is fun to watch too at the end of the day. So that was just the one stat I personally wanted to come up because I think it's beyond impressive. Just being known for that, just a defensive locked in team to go ahead. And now we're at this point where we average 82.5 a game.
Yeah. So let me use that as transition because I did write down their season average of 82.5. Which when I found it was number 19 in the country in terms of, points per game average, which is very good. You would have never thought that, 15 years ago that the Badgers would be a top 20 scoring offense, right? This game where they scored 83 against Nebraska was their 13th time scoring at least 80 points. This year, that is the 3rd highest total and most since they had 13 such games in 1970, 1971. So we're going to have to keep track of that stat because they are probably going to beat that stat. It's also their 12th time this year holding an opponent under 70 points, which is their season average. So that's a very good thing. So 12 times holding opponents under 7, 13th time scoring at least 80 points. You're going to win a lot of basketball games, right? Where did I write that down? Badgers have won 16 of 20 games 10 times since the year 2000. This is the 4th time under Greg Gard, so put some goddamn respect on him. I I did write down that the Badgers are 8-0 when McGee scores in double figures. They are 7-0 this season alone when he scores in double figures. So he is a key part of the offense. So there's definitely some truth to what Mike is talking about. They held Nebraska, talking about defense. They held Nebraska to their second lowest field goal percentage of the season, and they held them to 33.9%. Badgers are 8-1 when holding opponents below 40%. And that was also Nebraska's lowest in Big Ten play. So very good job. The defense and the offense both showed up on this day for Wisconsin. They also decided to make 17 three-pointers, which was the third most in school history. So the Badgers were hitting on all cylinders on Sunday. Like I said, they started out the game really strong, 19-2 to 13-18 mark in the first half. They held Nebraska under 28 points for the half. That's the fourth time in 5 games that they have held their opponents under 30 points in the first half alone. So the Badgers' defense is really shaping up, in my opinion, the last couple of weeks, where they're improving on some little things, contesting some three-pointers better. Tyler and Mike has talked about it. We've talked about them closing out slow on shooters, and that's something that is becoming something of the past, in my opinion, where they're getting a little bit better at it. And it's obviously showing out on the defensive side, right? So in terms of big men here, Winter, he scored 6 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. I'm going to be honest, man. When I talk about these big men, they did some little things. They set some good screens. They passed the ball. They moved the ball well. I thought they showed hands very well on defense. They weren't too grabby, and they were just kind of remaining big. But we didn't need them to score because everybody else was doing the scoring. So that's okay with me. Tyler's got a couple players that he's going to talk about. Probably my favorite player on the team, and John Blackwell. That guy is absolutely a stud. And I think he has an opportunity to become a pretty good rotational player in the NBA, but that's a discussion for a different day. I wrote down about Winter. He didn't score much, but was part of a great start to the game. He hit 2 threes early in the game that got us to the 19-2 lead, and he also had 2 really, really good blocks in the first half, showing his ability and maybe his ceiling at being a weak side defender. He had a couple pretty emphatic blocks, in my opinion, where it was like, he wasn't just getting a fingertip on it. He was hitting the whole goddamn ball. You know, the second one he hit into the student section, I was like, "Oh, watch out for the cheerleaders, buddy." they're not there to get their face have Spalding across the forehead. You're supposed to leave that on the opponent's forehead. But Crowell only had 1 point, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. He didn't take a shot. He literally didn't record a shot attempt. He was 0 for 0. But again, the big men didn't have to score, so it was tremendous. Amos came in, played with great energy. He moved the ball really well. He had 2 points, 2 rebounds, and 4 assists. So very nice job for him. A guy who doesn't get a lot of playing time, but when he came in, and this is the thing that I love, and we keep talking about Kamar McGee getting more minutes. I really think guard is, I called this out a couple weeks ago, but he's hitting all the right buttons right now with the rotation. And that's the best part about this team is how deep it is you can kind of mismatch players, you know, because basketball is such a matchup-based sport because of 5-on-5, right? And you can make it 1-on-1, 2-on-2 very easily. Having guys like Amos and Gilmore off the bench, who again are like yin and yang, is just such a strength for this team. But Amos did a nice job moving the ball. Gilmore, 3 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. He does everything. He is the Pat Connaughton type player on this Badgers team. And when we talk about Bucks, I'm going to talk about Pat Connaughton, and we're going to stop disrespecting my guy. Okay, just going to let you all know that right now. But I also love Carter Gilmore. These are my favorite types of players. I think I gravitate towards them because that's the kind of player that I always wanted to be. I knew I was never going to be the star. I was never going to average 20. I was never going to be defensive player of the year. But you know what? I feel like I could go out there, I could pass the ball a little bit, I could rebound, and I could definitely dive on the floor because nobody else wanted to do it, right? But I just love Carter Gilmore type players. He did a great job as well. But Nebraska was scratching and clawing at the end there, and it just wasn't enough because the Badgers' offense was fantastic.
It was really fun watching, like seeing looking at the wings specifically. Blackwell and Tanjay, they scored the first 16 points of the game.
Yeah.
They were both 3 of 3 from the field and 2 of 2 from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
And the Badgers jumped out to their 19-2 lead, and Nebraska went on an 11-0 run and eventually got the game down to a 3-point game. Now, I'm going to give credit to Nebraska and then rip it away really just as quickly. Nebraska made some really good defensive adjustments, and that's what allowed them to close the gap to 24-21. And then the Badgers readjusted to the adjustments that Nebraska made. And the way that I saw it was the Badgers started attacking Nebraska's defense almost like they were playing zone.
Yeah.
So they would essentially dribble drive to draw multiple defenders and then swing, open threes, and they were cashing them. Mike already talked about Kamari McGee, but guys like that, if those guys are going to be open in the corners, knock them down. Let them fly.
It's automatic for him from the corner.
Yeah,
It's insane.
I mean, Mike, you think you sent us a stat today that the Badgers have, 2 of the top 10 3-point shooters in the Big Ten?
Yeah.
Something like that. I think that's
and McGee, and I think Tanjay. I want to say
McGee is number one, though, right?
He is number one, and Tanjay is in the top 10.
Yeah, I'll go double check.
In 3-point percentage.
Is insane.
John Blackwell did miss his next 4 shots after starting 3 for 3, but he stayed aggressive. That's the big thing. In the second half, he hit a 3 to push the lead to 22, hit another 3 to push the lead to 25. If he's hitting threes, you are screwed. Because that's the next offensive step is for John Blackwell to be consistently hitting threes. And out of the 5 field goals that he made, 4 of them are 3-pointers. So he was 4 for 7 from the 3-point line. For his 14 points, 4 rebounds, and assists. He did have 3 turnovers. That's the mark, like I said. 3, anything more than that, I'm going to got to bring those down. But 3, I'll just let it be. Also had a steal. But then John Tanjay, 15 points in the first half alone. Should have had 3 more. Definitely got fouled on a 3, so he should have been what I would say 5 for 10 from the 3-point line and should have had 8 free throws instead of just 5. But that counted one of his missed threes. In the second half, he had a great chance where he got a pump fake, drove, and then dunked on Connor Essegian, which was very fun to watch because as much as, good things for Connor Essegian, it was fun seeing him get dunked on.
I agree.
And Tanjay's a Nebraska guy, so know he wanted it. Yeah. He wanted it this game bad.
So for that put the Badgers up 19 at that point. Tanjay finished with 27 points. He was 9-19 from the field, 5 of 11 from the 3-point line, and 4 out of 5 on the free throw line. Added 5 rebounds. Now the thing, Tanjay took 5 free throws. The Badgers as a team took 8 free throws.
Yeah, they did.
And they still scored 83 points.
Yeah.
They scored 83 points while only shooting 8 free throws. That's crazy work. Jake already brought up the 3-point shooting, but the other thing that I got to bring up here is rebounding. The Badgers out-rebounded Nebraska 41-30. That's a big advantage. And then, just the second half, the way that the Badgers got tough defensively, that is the thing that's going to carry them as far as they can go. They're showing that they have the offense to stick with anybody. Even the UCLA game that they lost, they scored 83 points. I mean, they're showing that their offense is consistent and sustainable, even if it's coming from different sources. We've seen games of them scoring 80+ without Tanjay scoring any points. Now this game, we've seen a game where Stephen Crowell had literally 1 point. The Badgers' offense is sustainable. They had the massive game against Iowa, and we make posts about Greg Gard and revolutionizing the offense, and people are like, well, it's just one game, and we're not taking this seriously as what the new norm is. 80+ looks pretty sustainably the new norm.
I mean, they're averaging 82, so it is the new norm, and we're 20 games into the season.
That's what I was just going to say. We're much farther into the season now.
Yeah.
I thought this was the quietest 14-point game that John Blackwell has had this season because he scored most of his points right away in that first 19. Yeah, so I remember because I'm watching the second half specifically. I'm like, wow, I don't think I've really seen John Blackwell score, which is not bad, right? But that just goes back to your point. And I'm like, damn, Tanjay's been held scoreless, once this year, and we still drop 80+. So you go back to the efficiency and what other guys that can contribute. So that's why I go back. That's why I say that. I'm like, this is probably the quietest 14-point game I've ever seen from Blackwell or someone in general. So I just wanted to call that out real quick.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to say, I love seeing Ricardo Greppi get a dunk at the end of the game. That's fun to see him playing through his injury and being able to get on the board.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Mean mugging after that. His face.
You'd love to see it.
Yeah.
So we only had the one Badger game this week. We will have 3 for next week. So tonight, the Badgers play at Maryland. That's a tough game. We're kicking off what is getting to be a pretty tough stretch here for the Badgers. So tonight at Maryland, Saturday at Northwestern, and then Tuesday versus Indiana. It would be funny to see the Badgers be the nail in the coffin for Mike Woodson in Indiana. It sounds like he's on the hot seat. Would be fun to see the Badgers put the final nail in the coffin there with a 100-65 victory or something like that. But we'll see. So that's what we have between now and next Wednesday. 3 more Badger games. So, Mike, if there's anything else you want to throw out there as far as the Badgers are related?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just throw out just as far as Maryland is concerned. I mean, they're coming in kind of on a hot streak. They got back-to-back road wins at Illinois and at Indiana. I was watching part of that Indiana game, Maryland game prior to the Badger game this past weekend. But I'm really interested to see what the front court matchups look like because Maryland's got 2 guys, Derek Queen and Julian Reese. They're going to be the 4 or 5 matching up with Nolan and Steve. I think we're going to see more, my opinion, I think we're going to see a lot of Carter Gilmore minutes in this game. And I honestly think Xavier Amos might get some more minutes too, just to, match up with these guys. They both average double-doubles too. So that's where you're going to see a lot of their production. So it could be by committee, so to speak, in terms of defending those guys. So I think this is going to be another game where Gilmore could end up getting 20 plus minutes to help with, keeping those guys in check. But 4.5 point dogs on the road, the Xfinity Center, that they're going to be hot. They're going to be bumping tonight. I'm hoping for an upset, I guess, in this case, go according to Vegas. But it's going to be popping there for sure. I unfortunately won't be able to watch it until later on because I gotta drain some 3-pointers myself first at 6:30, and then we'll get back to it right after.
Yeah, for context,
take care, Mike. We will see you next Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm gonna real quick. For context for everybody, this game is tonight at 6:00 on Big Ten Network. The game against Northwestern on Saturday is 1:00 on Fox Sports 1. And the game against Indiana is Tuesday at 8:00 on Peacock. So make sure you plan accordingly.
Yeah.
I like to throw that stuff out there so everybody can know since there's 100 different channels that these games are on now. So tonight, Big Ten Network, 6:00, which will be a nice change of pace.
Right.
Listen to the Bucks here, and we've had to stay up till midnight watching the Bucks the last week. So it'd be nice to watch the game at 6:00.
Yeah, it'll be nice to get done with the show, go eat something, and then watch the Badgers.
Yeah, that'll be not have to lay down in bed and watch the game.
You said schedule could be a nice thing if we can string together some wins, want to be battle tested come March. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, as we're heading into February. Tough games, tough stretches. That's something that'll help in the future with seeding too. If you look at the Badgers being 5 out of their next 6 games are on the road or whatever it is, and they're playing some tough teams, that'll be something that can work in their favor if they're, between a 3 or a 4 or a 4 and a 5, wherever they may fall.
Is it that Arizona win too? Got better for us as well when they took out Iowa State. So if you pay attention to any of those things, that's just bumping our resume up more and more. So and this is a quad 1 game for sure. I think the next couple might be as well. So definitely battle tested, as you said.
We got some big boy games coming up, dude. We got a lot of ranked opponents coming up in February here. February is going to be a gauntlet for the Wisconsin Badgers.
All righty. Well, Mike, we will see you then next Wednesday. Have a good game, and we'll talk to you then.
Sounds good, fellas. Talk to you later.
All right. So now as we switch into Bucks games, not the ideal week, but I mean, if we're talking the Bucks have 4 games in the next week, and 3 of them are on a West Coast road trip, would you be thinking 2-2, and you're okay with that?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, especially with the travel that they had to get just back to Milwaukee to play this Heat game.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking landing at 5 o'clock, 5:15 to play a game at 7:30.
Yeah.
That's tough. And I want to give you credit to something that you've brought up in the past, which is Damian Lillard's leadership. You've brought it up in the past that it's something that people aren't really taking seriously enough or giving enough credit for. And I wanted to give you credit for bringing it up because this game was a great example. And that travel is a big part of it. You could hear during his interview that he's leading the team on their approach to starting this game. With no practices, the weird travel and flight issues, it's something that he brought up, that there's going to be no excuses. They still need to come out with energy and intensity, and that's a good leadership move by Damian Lillard to say those things and to be the example of that. Now, I'm glad that he ended up getting his triple-double. Him and Brooke were kind of going up at the end of the game, and Dame needed one more rebound, and Brooke kind of took his hands off it at the last second. They did end up giving him his triple-double for that. But if we're talking about Damian Lillard, we have to talk about the right before halftime sequence.
We have to talk about that.
So Damian Lillard gets fouled on a three-pointer. It was definitely a foul. Duncan Robinson wanted to act like it wasn't, but it was definitely a foul.
Yeah.
Makes all 3 free throws. Khalil Ware, who we are a big fan of, I'm going to talk about in a second, throws away the ball out of bounds. And Damian Lillard then comes loose towards the corner and knocks down a 3. The Bucks went from up by 8 points to up by 16 points in the last 24 and a half seconds of the first half. They were up by 8 with 24 and a half seconds when Giannis scored. And then Dame scored 6 by himself in the last 1.1 seconds.
I was amazed that they put that much time back on the clock, first of all. And for Dame, since we're talking about Dame, to score 29, to go along with the 10 and 11, 10 rebounds and 11 assists, he was held scoreless for the first 18 and a half minutes of this game. He scored 29. If that doesn't show you the potential of him in this offense as he gets more and more comfortable, first triple-double is a Buck, by the way, so congratulations to him. But if that doesn't show the potential of this offense, for him to score 6 points in 1.1 seconds is incredible, in my opinion. The Bucks were down 18-3 to start this game, man. Yeah. But once they got their land legs back, it was over for the Heat.
I wrote down 20-5. But yeah, I mean, they were down 20-5, and then they were up 66-35 at halftime. You're talking a 51-30 run.
Damn.
That's insane.
Damn, man. Like I said, once they got their land legs back, man.
Sorry, no, that's not even great. That's 61-30.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was originally wrong, but I'm glad I fixed it before somebody else pointed it out to me. 61-30 after being down 20-5.
That's insane.
So off the plane, they were definitely a slow start. 1 for 12 from the field. They were down by those 15 points. Simon, what's up? Thanks for joining for some Bucks discussion. They made their next 9 shots in a row.
Yeah, they did.
After starting 1 for 12. Cut the lead to 3 by the end of the first quarter. Definitely cut that lead down, in a big way. They finished 46 for 98 from the field after starting 1 for 12. It's 47% and won the game by 29 points after being down by 15.
Yeah.
Looking at it, 18 of 40 from the three-point line. That's 45%. That is my ideal scenario. Shoot 43s. If you make any more than probably about 16, that's my ideal scenario.
Yeah.
16 out of 40 would be right around that 40% mark. And then turnovers, only 6 is beautiful. And only 4 points off turnovers. You are going to win a lot of basketball games if you're only giving up 4 points off turnovers.
Yes, you are. One of the biggest, Achilles heels for the Bucks is points off turnovers.
It absolutely is. The last thing I'll say about this game specifically, we both love Bam Adebayo, and the Heat are starting 2 rookies. 2 of them are both guys that I'm fairly high on. Like Khalil Ware was one of our favorite big men for both of us. And then Pelle Larsson was one of my highest rated shooters when we were doing our draft prep last summer. So just because they're starting rookies doesn't mean that they're just bums or useless players or, behind the 8 ball, behind the curve. I thought pretty highly of those 2, and I would have been happy with the Bucks if they had picked those 2.
Yeah, I remember watching the draft, me and you. I don't remember if we were just watching it and talking on Xbox or if we were playing during it. But, nuance. We were watching the draft, and I remember when the Heat drafted Khalil Ware, and we both let out a shit.
Yeah.
Because it was like, we were right about him because we trust the Heat's scouting, department over there in Miami. With all the stuff going on with Jimmy Butler, people can kind of forget about how successful this team has been, kind of picking up bottom of the barrel kind of people and making them successful, making them a lot of money in the NBA. Yeah. Khalil Ware is going to be a very nice player, and him teamed up with Bam Adebayo is going to be a really nice pairing. Once the game slows down and Khalil Ware starts understanding when to pass the ball and where to pass the ball, like it took Bam a couple of years, that's going to be a disgusting duo. So good job by them. And sucks that they're in the Eastern Conference, though.
and Khalil Ware can knock down the threes. Like, I'll let Bam shoot threes all day. Like, if he takes one step in, he's money, but I'll let Bam shoot threes all day. Khalil Ware can knock down threes.
Yeah, Bam's having a tough year from three. I think he's in the high 20s right now because he's not. But like you said, from mid-range, he kind of did what Giannis is doing this year a couple of years ago, where he started hitting that 15-foot pull-up jumper, and now Giannis is doing it, and Giannis is like one of the best players in the world.
Now he's killing it, yeah.
A little bit more dangerous when he does it, but Bam is a tremendous player, very high IQ on the offensive end.
And then TNT shut the game off again. I wasn't watching it on TNT, but it's funny to see that that's the second time that's happened in the last 3 years that the Bucks get a game on TNT against the Heat shut off because the game is so lopsided.
Yeah.
I will say I loved seeing Tyler Smith hit a couple threes at the end of the game. That felt good because that made me feel good about my projection of the Bucks drafting him. So that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
What did you take away from Thursday night?
First of all, I want to give a shout out to the Bucks. We've been talking, kind of beating a dead horse at this point about the slow start. The Bucks scored 125 in this game. That's the fifth straight game they hit at least 120 points. So their offense, to your credit, you were bringing it up a bunch last week. The offense is humming. It's moving along. Even in the next game when we ended up losing, they still scored plenty of points. But Giannis, 25, 12, and 4, he did his normal thing. Damian Lillard, we talked about him. And the next guy we have to talk about is a guy that I have wanted on the Bucks the last couple of years. Gary Trent Jr. had the game of his life so far this season for the Bucks. The bench in total scored 54 points, had 22 rebounds, 11 assists. They're 21 of 40 from the field and 10 of 17 from three. So those numbers, 10 of 17 from three, looks amazing from the bench. When you consider that Gary Trent Jr. had 7 of the 10, it starts to look a little bit like he was carrying the squad on the bench, which he was. 7 of 11 overall, 7 of 10 from beyond the arc, 21, 1-1. He doesn't need to grab rebounds and assists. He needs to stretch the floor and shoot the damn rock. He was tremendous. I was watching this game just like, conviction. This feels so good that I was right about this, dude. Like, it's one of those moments in sports when you predict something. We were talking about draft and we're talking about free agencies. We do that with all sports. We're going to be having our Brewers Primer coming up here soon. Lots of good stuff. So if you're a big Brewers fan, look forward to that. We'll make a post about it. But wanting Gary Trent Jr. and him having a big-time game on national television, like you said, the game had to get shut off because he literally was shooting the lights out. Like, quite literally shooting the lights out. He was tremendous. Also, one thing that I think the Bucks need to clean up a little bit, but maybe it was just this game, I might be overthinking it, is we were giving up a lot of lobs. And Khalil Ware is a big-time lob threat, so is Bam Adebayo. But Tyler Hero, former Wisconsin kid, I think he's cleaned up his act a little bit, seeing how Jimmy Butler's been acting. He's been acting a little bit better, not as much of a head case. He did get into a fight the game after, so I maybe should.
Yeah. Take that with a grain of salt.
But you have to play with a certain edge to be a professional athlete, right?
Right.
So you can't just be getting punked, man. So I respect him for that, but he was doing a tremendous job. Giving a shout out to him, getting into the paint and finding the big man in the paint.
He's definitely taken a step with his passing.
Yeah, it's a tough position for Brook to be in because you can't let a guy like Tyler Hero get hot and get the feel for the ball, hit floaters all day.
Right.
He was kind of in no man's land a little bit, but like I said, Khalil Ware is different. He's going to be a very good player for a long time.
Yeah. Steve said Doc was saying that even though we can score a lot, he wasn't necessarily happy with some offense because the ball stuck and there was too much isolation. I like the objectivity. That is definitely something I can see being the case. We have Damian Lillard, we have Giannis, we have Gary Trent Jr., we have all of these guys that can score, guys that can get buckets in different ways. The Bucks, regardless of who is playing well, the Bucks as a team play their best basketball when the ball is moving quickly. And that goes with passing, dribbling, whatever moves you're making, transition. When the ball is moving quickly, good things happen for the Bucks because they have so many guys that can score.
Yeah.
So this is where I've brought up in the past with Bobby Portis is like letting the game come to you. All of the guys in the Bucks can score. If you trust that the ball is going to move around and you be, an example of the ball moving around, your teammates are going to follow suit and the ball is going to move. The Bucks' best games, the most fun games to watch this season are the ones where the ball is flowing around and everybody's getting extra passes and giving extra passes. And guys are hitting open threes and we're getting lobs and layups. Like, those are the best Bucks games. So, Steve, I can absolutely see that being as like okay, we're doing really well. We can still do better.
Yeah.
Situation.
I have the perfect transition point. What I'm about to say right now. I'm about to clean up all the hater Bucks fans real quick. I got you.
Go right into the Clippers game, man.
With Doc saying that and the ball being stuck in people's hands with too much isolation, why would you want to trade a guy like Chris Middleton? People look at Chris Middleton and think he has to score. His secondary playmaking on this roster is a big key to why this offense can be very good.
Yep.
So as we're going into a game where, he may not have played his best basketball,
mm-hmm.
he still is one of the biggest leaders on this team. He has one of the biggest voices in the locker room.
I would say he's definitely top 2 or 3 smartest players on the team too, if not number 1.
Oh, he's up there. The only player I would say that maybe has seen as many different coverages is Dame. I'm not even lying to you. Giannis, they created the wall. And I agree with what he said about, Shaq didn't have this. He's LeBron, they all did their thing. They only created a wall for one person. He was absolutely right about that. But being able to score from different spots on the floor, Chris and Dame are head and shoulders above everybody else on this roster. Like, it's not even close in my opinion. You want me to go right into the Bucks game here? So
sure. I'm going to read Steve's thing real quick.
Go ahead.
Steve said that Giannis has talked a lot about the team's fortunes have changed after a dismal start because they trust each other. That's a big thing too. I would throw in a guy like Taurean Prince into that conversation. Yeah. We talked about it last week. There was a game where he had 8 assists.
There was a game where he had 8
Taurean Prince had 8 assists in a basketball game.
Yeah.
Like that's just one of those things where when the ball is moving, good things happen. Obviously we've seen over the last few weeks, Dame and Giannis, their chemistry is chemistrying.
It's pretty good, dude.
And Giannis and Chris, doesn't matter how many games Chris misses or how many minutes he plays, they are going to connect.
Dude, you have the same feeling about those two as you did about Rodgers and Nelson, dude. Rodgers and Tate.
Or Rodgers and Adams.
Bro, they literally look at each other and they know what the hell they're thinking. It is what it is.
They share a brain. We said that last year a bunch of times. Yeah. Giannis and Chris share a brain.
They do. So
we can go into the Clippers game. You can start with whatever you want to start with. I don't have a ton of game-specific stuff, but more so like after-game stuff.
Yeah, so you're talking about Dame and Giannis together, right? So their stats together were 65 points, 23 rebounds, 11 assists. Dame back-to-back triple-doubles, his 5th career triple-double, second with the Bucks. So congratulations to him. He played great. I just want to point out, why were people talking about him 1 for 9 from behind the three-point line when he had 10 rebounds and 10 assists at 6'2"? And you know what? Kyrie Irving has come out in the last couple of weeks talking about how he's actually 6'1", and I think that Damian Lillard is probably shorter than Kyrie Irving. So if he's 6'1", Dame is 6 feet, getting 10 rebounds against the Giants.
And Dame had to chuck a couple of those threes up too.
He did. Brook Lopez with 13. He played okay. Taurean Prince. I almost said Tayshaun, dude. This is going to be my nightmare this season.
It's your new Willie Peralta.
It is. 14 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. He was 5 of 8 from the field and 4 of 7 from 3. So he played tremendous basketball. The rest of the starters, Brooke, Taurean, and Andre Jackson Jr. together at 31, 12, and 6, 7 of 14 from beyond the arc. So they did their job, in my opinion. The bench, 21, 7, and 7, 8 of 20 from the field, 5 of 11 from 3. So they did okay. With Chris kind of having a stinker of a game, not being able to score. He didn't play much, didn't take many shot attempts. I don't think he was in attack mode, in my opinion. Didn't look like Chris was going out there going for the kill.
He looked rusty. We didn't bring it up that he didn't play in that Heat game.
Yeah.
Meaning he hadn't played since the previous Sunday.
Yeah, so he looked rusty. On the drive, the Bucks scored 31 points, 12 from Giannis on 42%. and 15 from Dame on 50% shooting. So, I mean, Giannis, maybe the percentage can go up a little bit, but again, he's having 2-3 guys in his face every single time. I think people take for granted that he does score most of the time when he's in those situations. To be able to go with that kind of strength to the rim, get raked, and then have the touch to kiss it lightly off the glass is a skill that not many people in NBA history have ever mastered, in my opinion.
Especially guys that are 6'11".
Yeah, he's different, man. When you watch him, man, he's so different. I love that guy so much. It's gonna suck not being able to watch the Bucks for a couple of days, but they definitely have earned the next 2 days off. On catch and shoots, the Bucks scored 33 points, 12 from Gary Trent Jr., who was on a heater again, 66.7% on catch and shoots, and Taurean Prince scored 12 on 57%. So those two, they flew to LA and they were ready to shoot. Pull-up game, 14 points. We kind of struggled in this area. Dame had 6 points on 27%. I definitely skipped the Giannis line, so my brain skipped the line. Giannis scored 2 points on 16%, so that was a big bugaboo in my opinion in that area. We scored 40 points in the paint, and the Clippers scored 58 points in the paint. A lot of that was James Harden getting downhill, which really sucks. I do have to give credit to the Clippers. This is my final thing. They went 28 of 28 from the free throw line in a game that was tied 17 times. So credit to them making their free throws in a game that was tied that many times. That was one of the differences. That and points in the paint, in my opinion, were the two biggest differences.
So I have a couple different things, but I want to look at some of the shooting things first. So you already mentioned Dame being 1 of 9 from the three-point line, and you mentioned Chris not scoring in the game. And naturally, the tears are flowing about Chris and Pat. Yeah. Chris Middleton played 19 and a half minutes, and people are crying like the 4 shots that he missed cost the Bucks the game.
Yeah.
So here's my thing. If you hate Chris Middleton, why are you crying that he's not scoring 20 points? Because if you're crying that he's not, you have to at least at some point in your brain believe that he's capable of it.
That's true.
So does that mean you actually sort of respect Chris Middleton, but just won't actually say it? Because you can't have both. You can't complain that he's not scoring and think that he's trash and can't score.
It makes no sense to me, but whatever.
So there's that. Thank you, Steve. I just came up with that on the spot because that wasn't my original point. My original point was Chris playing 19 and a half minutes, Pat playing 9 and a half minutes, and people are talking about such small portions of a 48-minute basketball game that's played 5-on-5, like these two guys that combined played 29 of the minutes. And I'm not saying that these two aren't playing a part in the Bucks losing this game, but people need to stop only focusing on bad games of players they don't like.
Yeah.
Like, if that's going to be the way that you focus on things, what are you going to focus on in your life? You're going to focus on the things that you don't like and then attract them. You're going to notice them more. When you are focusing on those things, your brain's going to put more of them in front of your face and be like, hey, here's more of that thing you're thinking about all the time. Jaylen Brown on Saturday was 0 for 5 from the three-point line, 2 for 6 from the free throw line. Klay Thompson played 26 and a half minutes, scored 6 points. CJ McCollum went 3 for 13 from the field on Saturday in 23 minutes and was 1 for 6 from the three-point line. Zach LaVine played 38 minutes on Saturday, was 2 for 9 from the three-point line, and 3 for 8 from the free throw line. People have bad games. Let that shit go once in a while.
Nicely done, dude. Honestly, very nicely done. That was tremendous, dude. Nice.
Now, let's go to what I actually think cost the Bucks the game against the Clippers.
All right, let's do it.
In my mind, it's extra possessions.
Yeah.
The Milwaukee Bucks allowed, you look at the shooting numbers, the Bucks took 34 free throws and made 30. That's damn good. Mm-hmm. The Clippers were 28 for 28, like you said, but that's still +2 in the Bucks' favor. The Bucks scored 13 threes out of 35. That's 37%. That's fine. The Clippers made 11 out of 34. That's +6 in the Bucks' favor in those two spots. So +6 at the 3-point line, +2 at the free throw line. You look at field goal percentage. The Bucks shot 46.8% from the field, and the Clippers shot 45.4%. So you're looking at this, and you guys be like, "Oh, well, the Bucks should win this game, right?" The field goal attempts for this game, the Bucks 79, the Clippers 97.
Yeah.
That's 18 more attempts at 1% lower. That's going to score you more points.
Yep.
Looking at it, the Clippers got 18 more shots out of it, obviously. They scored 15 points off turnovers more than the Bucks and 11 more second chance points than the Bucks. So Bucks are -11 in second chance points, -15 in points off turnovers. That's -26. Then you add the +2 off of free throws and the +6 from the 3-point line. That's still -18 that the Bucks were in those four categories, and they lost the game by 10 points.
Yeah.
That, to me, constitutes a not bad loss. So the other thing I'll say, this game did present some weird matchups for the Bucks. The Bucks had Ajax on Norman Powell. They had Taurean Prince guarding James Harden. They had Damian Lillard guarding Derrick Jones Jr. of all people. Offensively and defensively, Derrick Jones Jr. was guarding Dame. Playing without AJ Green and Bobby Portis it made this a weird game.
Mm-hmm.
Brook Lopez and Zubats are the same person, except for the 3-point line shooting. But other than that, they are the same person. Like, they're both great contesters. No, that was Thursday to Saturday. So there was one day off in between, but they were flying from Milwaukee to LA after having flown from New Orleans to Milwaukee on Thursday night.
Yeah.
So a lot of travel involved, distance travel. So, like I said, people have bad games. It's not as serious as people are making it out to be, and each game does not carry as much weight as people want to act like it does.
I agree.
Now, like I mentioned, Bobby Portis is out with dealing some personal matters. I don't think that means that he's getting traded. I don't think that's the connection. It does sound like he's dealing with family stuff. So hopefully whatever Bobby Portis has going on is going well.
Yeah.
And turns out okay for him. That said, we're also playing without AJ Green going into this game as well. AJ Green has missed a handful of games. It does sound like he's close to returning, but still no AJ Green for the Jazz game, which could have been beneficial. The Bucks were 12 of 34 from the 3-point line against the Jazz on Monday. Dame was 4 for 10. That's solid. I'll take 40% all day. Taurean Prince and Chris Middleton were both 40%. Gary Trent Jr., he's been hot. Had not a great game from the 3-point line against the Jazz. He had a handful of opportunities to make some daggers. Just didn't knock him down. I'm not going to not pass the ball to Gary Trent Jr. because he didn't knock down his threes this game. Unfortunately, that did lead the Bucks to have to leave their starters in a little bit longer than they would have wanted to. And I think that definitely affected him when we get into the Portland game in a minute. But looking at it, the Bucks had 12 turnovers, only allowed 12 points off turnovers. I'll take that every single game as well. Bucks playing the zone defense. This is something I think Doc Rivers should get some credit for as well. The way that the Bucks are playing zone defense, it makes it harder for teams to try to have their big men set screens and get their guards versus Brook Lopez. Yeah. Because all Brook Lopez has to do is stay in front, and the zone aspect of the defense makes it easier for the Bucks guards to recover on those screens.
Agreed.
So I think Doc Rivers is doing a really good job calling that out. It makes guarding screens simpler.
It's fair.
So I like the way that the Bucks are playing zone defense a little bit more frequently, and I'm gonna look into it to see, what their numbers are doing so, because I have to believe that their defensive numbers are being beneficial from the zone defense.
Yeah, especially since they've been going to it so much more lately.
Yeah. One thing I will say, I hate to say it, it's going to be very specific scenarios where it will work, but over the broad scope of a large sample size, Giannis at center is not sustainable.
It's not, and I don't know why people keep talking about it.
He can do it for small ball lineups occasionally, but there's never going to be a scenario where Giannis is starting at the 5. He's a power forward, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for long periods of time, it's just they're not getting enough stops with Giannis at the center.
Yeah.
And it's not even like I'm saying that it's Giannis's fault. It's just when Giannis is on the floor at the center spot, the Bucks are giving up size. Now, if another team that they're playing against goes small, then I'm a little bit more on board with it. And like I said, you can do it for stretches, but we're never going to be in a scenario where Giannis is playing the center spot consistently.
Yeah, I mean, just look at what Anthony Davis was saying when, they had Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee next to him. He felt like he was playing more efficiently because he didn't have to take all the banging that the center has to take, right?
Yeah.
That there's some truth to that. Anthony Davis is a tremendous player. He does get hurt quite a bit.
Yeah.
But he is more efficient at the four, and I would not want to put Giannis through what Anthony Davis is going through. So,
and that's part of it too. I mean, you could bring that up as a potential reason why he's always hurt if he's having to play center so much.
That's fair. That is completely fair.
Now, my point with this is we need Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez is a need on this team. So in my mind, Brook Lopez is not being traded.
Absolutely not.
Unless we get Miles Turner, but that's, like I said, I think something we should visit in the offseason. I'll leave that for another day. I've brought it up over the years past, and it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, but I would be thrilled if it could. Other than that, I would like another backup big. And again, it's not a dig at Bobby Portis, but Bobby Portis is a power forward. I would like another center to be out there with Giannis. A guy that I've advocated for in the past is Mo Bamba.
Yeah.
So if we can somehow find a way to get another center to Milwaukee, I would be on board with that. Just it's just Giannis at the center is not sustainable. Steve asked if there's any centers rumored to Milwaukee. I don't think so. Robert Williams, I think, is a guy that's kind of on the trade block for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's calling about Robert Williams. I don't know that I would want to do it, but if Phoenix decides that they want to cut Yusuf Nurkic, I don't know, maybe that's something worth looking into. I don't know where his head's at, but maybe.
Maybe.
Other than that, I kind of hate the Phoenix Suns for getting Nick Richards because I really liked him.
Yeah.
That was a really smart trade by them. So maybe they do want to give us Mason Plumlee for like a second-round pick.
He wouldn't be bad as a backup. I would
definitely take him as a backup.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at. Otherwise, it might be maybe some buyout.
Yeah. The Bucks are going to be in the buyout market, which is why they're trying to get under the second apron.
Right. Because then they can sign anybody up to the mid-level exception, which is like $12 million.
Yeah, 12 point whatever. Yeah.
Maybe they can find a way to get Valanciunas from the Wizards.
I've actually seen that float around. That would be interesting pairing, in my opinion.
If we could have Brook and Valanciunas, that would be tough for opposing bigs that try to bang with those two all game.
Yeah, you got Brook Lopez, who's going to literally contest every shot, and then Valanciunas, who might take a cheap shot at you. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, right.
He likes to throw his weight around.
Yeah. So that would be really interesting.
Yeah.
As far as going back to Monday's game against the Jazz, Chris Middleton showed to the Clipper game, was an outlier. He shot 7 of 9 in the first half, scored 15 points, was 3 for 4 in the second half in basically 11 and a half minutes. Scored another 7 points in the second half. He finished 10 of 13, had 22 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. And people are still complaining about his contract like he's a max contract player. He's not. He makes $33 million. He's putting up similar stats and better in some areas than a guy like Bradley Beal, who's making $15 million more than him.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
For context, the difference in contract would be like Chris, Bobby, and Marjan make the same money as Bradley Beal by himself.
Ick.
I'm not saying we'd have to trade those three to get Bradley Beal, but just looking at contractual value, that's that.
Yeah.
The big three total scored 92 of the 125 points in this game and had 18 assists. They scored or assisted on out of 108 of the 125 points and added 26 rebounds between the three of them. 18 of them came from Giannis.
They did.
Looking at it, this, Steve, we brought up the stuck ball and too much isolation. This game was the perfect, beautiful, ideal opposite of that. The ball movement, beautiful. This is the game where Damian Lillard had 8 assists, which isn't surprising, but tied with Damian Lillard on the team lead was Taurean Prince with 8 assists.
Yep.
That tells you that the ball is moving. The Bucks had 33 assists on 52 made field goals. That's 63.5% of their shots that they made were assisted. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
So, and then the last thing I want to say. Why are people complaining about the Bucks being 8-2 in their last 10 games? First of all, you can only play who's on your schedule. But when did beating teams that you're supposed to beat become something to complain about?
Championship culture.
Like, have we already forgotten how the first 10 games went?
Nope.
The Bucks are playing well. Be happy about it. You can allow yourself to be happy about it. It's going to be okay. I promise. If you let yourself be happy that the Bucks are winning most of their games right now, it's going to be okay.
Especially since this is a form of entertainment, so you're supposed to enjoy it and be happy.
And that's the thing. Whether you're happy or angry about it, that the Bucks, quote unquote, can't beat good teams, it's not going to affect the outcome of the games.
It is not.
You being happy is not going to affect the outcome of a Bucks game.
It is not.
In fact, I would argue that the opposite is true. Because you're putting more good vibes out there, especially if you attend a game. You're just putting more good vibes out there. You're putting good vibes out into the state of Wisconsin. That is good things for everybody.
It is.
So be happy when teams are winning. Who cares who they're beating? They're winning. They don't ask how. They ask how many.
Yeah.
W's count as W's. It counts the same as if you beat the Celtics by 1 point on a buzzer beater or if you beat the Jazz on a Monday night in Utah. What did you take away from the Jazz game?
Yeah, so good calling on Chris Middleton with the 22 3-3. He played tremendous. I love that immediately after people were complaining about him not scoring, he goes out and goes on a heater. That was hilarious to me.
Yeah, right.
Dame and
Giannis, as if 10 out of 13 isn't good against fucking anybody.
Yeah, he was cooking. He was getting to a spot and he was making a shot. So I don't care what you have to say. Dame and Giannis both had 35. With Dame scoring 35 in this one, he is now has the third most 35-point games for a point guard ever NBA history. So let's put some respect on Damian Lillard. There's been a lot of good point guards in NBA history, and for him to be third on the list of 35-point games is pretty phenomenal. He's carved out a pretty nice career. Two things I took away from this. One, the Bucks' efficiency from the field was amazing. 52 of 86, 61% from the field is disgusting.
Yeah.
That helped that we scored 64 points in the paint compared to the Jazz, who scored 42. So you're plus 22 on points in the paint, along with 12 threes. Now you're shooting 35%, which isn't like the best. But if you give me 12 threes and score 64 in the paint, you're going to win a lot of basketball games, no matter who you're playing.
I mean, that's 100 points right there.
True. In terms of driving, we scored 33. 18 came from Dame and 13 came from Giannis. Pretty good. Catch and shoots, we scored 29. The efficiency wasn't high here, but room for improvement. Like you said, a guy like AJ Green, that's literally what I wrote down. I said a guy like AJ Green could play in this game and get on fire and completely change the efficiency outlook of this. The pull-up game, we scored 26. Now, I talked about how Dame and Giannis weren't good against the Clippers. They were very good against the Jazz. Dame scored 14 on 54%, and Giannis scored 8 on 66%. So that's really good. That's a quick turnaround, just like Chris Middleton. They flipped the page, and they just went to the next one, which I advise everybody else to do.
Yep.
In the paint, the Bucks scored 17 points in the paint. They shot 100%.
Love that.
100% on paint touches. Giannis had 10 of the 17. If you take the drive, the pull-up, and the paint game all together, that is 31 of Giannis's 35. So Giannis was very efficient in this one. They were finding him in the paint. He was hitting his pull-up mid-range jumper. He was driving to the rim, getting fouled, and finishing. So the Milwaukee Bucks played a very good game in Utah. And then that brought us to the Trailblazers.
Hold on. One last thing with the Jazz game.
Go ahead.
Brook Lopez got his 2000th career block.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Good call.
All right.
Okay.
Now we can move on to the Blazers game from last night.
So we go into the Blazers game. This is the third game in 4 nights with West Coast
On the
travel.
West Coast.
They had a tough time getting up to Milwaukee. Then they had a fly out the next day. So they went almost as far south as you're going to go. So almost as far north as you're going to go. Then they went all the way as far west as you're going to go in the league.
Yep.
Go over to the place where you can't freaking breathe.
Yeah.
And then you go back out as far west as you're going to go, going to Portland. Third game in 4 nights. This is why I wrote this down. I was looking. I always like to look at the efficiency, right? And on the drive, the Bucks scored 19 points. 6 from Dame, 5 from Giannis. That's 11 of the 19. Dame shot 28%, and Giannis shot 33% on drives. In the catch and shoot area, we scored 24. Brooke had 9 on 30%. Gary Trent had 6 on 25%. Dame had 3 on 33%. The legs weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
And credit to the Blazers. I can't remember the guy's name. Advi.
Oh, Denny Avdia.
Yeah, Advia. He had a crazy game. He was on one yesterday.
He was aggressive.
Pull-up game, we scored 15. Dame scored 5 on 28%. Giannis scored 2 on 33%. And it was just one of those games where the legs just weren't there, and the Blazers are a young and upcoming team. They have some guys who are like fringe veterans. They're still on the younger side, but they played really good. Anthony Simons was hitting some shots in the second quarter.
Yeah.
I think he scored 12 in the quarter. He hit a couple big-time threes that gave the Blazers a lead. The Bucks got out to an early 12-point lead. Giannis had 39, 12, and 5. He played really good. Dame scored 23 and 6. I think part of the trade when we got Dame from Portland is we weren't allowed to beat them anymore, especially on television. So I'm just going to tell myself that as far as the starters go, they scored 83 out of the 112, had 27 rebounds and 19 assists, 6 of 18 from 3. Not the best, could improve. The bench was 5 of 12 from 3. So again, the efficiency could be a little bit better there. 11 of 26 from the field in total for the bench. So just some things to work on. But again, they earned the 2 days off that they're having right now before they play against San Antonio. So I'm not upset about this loss, honestly. It is what it is.
We've talked about this before. I know we've said this exact phrase, but there's no back-to-backs in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, the 3-point shooting, 11 for 35, that's 31%. Just another example of the legs not being there. Giannis started 1 for 6 at the free throw line. Another example of the legs not being there.
Yep.
You see the shots that Dame's taking. He's taking the same shots that he always takes, but they're all just hitting the front of the rim. That's legs not being there.
Yep.
The Blazers, to their credit, annoyingly, went 12 of 28 from the 3-point line. That's about 43%. Normally a weakness for them, but they're playing the Bucks on a back-to-back, so of course they were, hitting them.
Yeah.
The Bucks had 11 turnovers, which is fine. 11 is fine. But again, this is going to be like one of those things where legs not getting back on defense allowed 19 points off those 11 turnovers.
Yeah.
Now, Giannis left it all out there, even though he was struggling at the free throw line. He started 1 for 6. He made his next 4. Dame took some shots he settled for. Chris got in foul trouble with this game was super annoying and really inconsistent officiating to begin with.
The first quarter was pretty bad, yeah.
And the fourth quarter was really inconsistent too.
That's fair.
There was 2 times where DeAndre Ayton got away with just holding on to Giannis's arm, and he couldn't go and contest the guy who got to dunk on him because Giannis could only lift up one arm.
Yeah.
Taurean Prince was also in foul trouble. So Chris and Taurean Prince both had 3 fouls in the first half. I mean, not much you can really do there after that. No AJ Green, which is how you got Marjon in the first half. Brooke, no legs. He was slow rotating. That's just another thing. Gary Trent Jr. was 3 for 10 from the 3-point line. That's a legs thing. I don't even like going to the gym and playing basketball in an open gym 2 days in a row, much less playing a 48-minute basketball game.
Yeah. With the best athletes in the world.
So I understand that guys are tired, and I know it's hard, but that you just have to try to stay sharp mentally. And I'll even extend this to fans. You have to try to stay sharp mentally when you're watching a second of a back-to-back. you have to understand that these are people. They are obviously world-class athletes, hence them being professional athletes, but fatigue does not care.
No.
So as far as staying sharp mentally, taking good shots, moving the ball, something we've already talked about multiple times with these games, don't get caught in isolation. Those are just things you have to stay sharp with mentally. If you're seeing those things happening, that to me is a sign of mental fatigue, not just physical. So the way I see it, get back at it on Friday. There's no back-to-backs in the playoffs. Just crumple this one up, throw it over your shoulder.
Yep.
Last thing I wanted to say on this game to end on a good note, Andre Jackson Jr., he did have a couple bad turnovers, but other than that, played a very good game.
Yeah.
He had
Good
9
call.
points. He was 3 for 3 from the field, had 7 rebounds, 5 assists. He cuts down the turnovers just a little bit, and this type of game is all we need from him.
Agreed.
Absolutely great job of him playing his role. All right. So the Bucks have 3 games between now and next Wednesday. They play Friday at the Spurs, like Jake brought up. They play Sunday against the Grizzlies, and then they play Monday against the Thunder. So another back-to-back. Thank you, NBA. If the Bucks win these 3 games, I'll feel pretty confident about where they are as far as their team game is going. Steve threw out a nice fatigue comment that fatigue will make cowards of us all. Love a good Vince Lombardi quote.
Never a bad time for a Vince Lombardi quote.
Never a bad time for a Vince Lombardi quote. Alrighty, so now that we are done having our discussions for the evening, I want to try something here. And
you didn't even tell me about
this. Going on a third YouTube channel here. Okay, just testing something out here. Got to make sure this works.
Yeah, they play a freaking back-to-back Sunday, Monday, and then they have another back-to-back on the 9th, 10th. I mean, one of them is against the 76ers, so, I mean, whatever. And then they play another back-to-back, Clippers-Wizards. Jesus. And then they have one in April, obviously, because they had to replace a game. Another back-to-back in March, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. The 8th and 9th. 15th, 16th. Did they just say, yeah, the Bucks are going to play all the back-to-backs?
Yeah. No, love that for us. So the reason I'm trying to do this is because we are inheriting a new YouTube channel. Here we go. Okay. We do have it. So we're good. So I want to make sure that we have this on here correctly. So we are inheriting the Lombardi Time Brews YouTube channel. So we are going to be starting broadcasting to a new audience, and Jake and I wanted to take the time to let the new audience know that we are, obviously Jake and Tyler, we are joined by Simon and Bryant for our Packers episodes, and we are joined by Mike for our Badgers episodes. So what we are is an optimistic and realistic Wisconsin sports show that covers the Packers on Tuesday nights. We cover the Bucks, the Brewers, and the Badgers basketball and football on Wednesday afternoons. So if you are from the Lombardi Time Brews channel that we are taking over, Tuesday nights are going to be our Packers shows, and we are looking into doing some other things here as well. Giannis's minutes this year as a whole, I am not 100% sure what his average is. But so if you are just a Packers fan, you will be able to only watch us talk about the Packers if that's what you would like. If you would like that you are Wisconsin sports fans in general, you can also listen to us talk about the Bucks, the Brewers, and the Badgers, and you can have consistent voices there. Now, Jake and I, we, in the April of 2022, decided that we were going to take our show from an optimistic and positive perspective for the betterment of our own and for our audience's mental health, to oppose the amount of negativity that's on social media, and simply just because we wanted to have our own version of SportsCenter, which is where the beginning of this show came from. Mm-hmm. What you'll get from us is fact-based analysis, optimistic perspective, ways that things can improve. What you won't get from us is knee-jerk reactions, clickbait, and just the blind support. So when we say optimistic and positive, we mean optimistic and realistic. We are not going to say that the Packers are the best at everything just because we love the Packers, or that the Bucks are number one even when we know that they're not, because there's obviously plenty of statistical evidence that shows that they're not number one at everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to make sure that people understand that optimistic and positive does not mean blind support just for the sake of supporting the team. Obviously, we do support the team, but it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't mean that we're saying that everything that we love is the best just because we support it.
Yep.
So I had a long conversation with John last Friday. He passed some things along. Some of the things that are going to continue from Lombardi Time Brews coming over to us, the live mock drafts with the listener input, that is something that we've already been doing for the last few years, so that will continue. Training camp roundups, we're going to make sure we get those. John said that was important to his audience. The mock draft reviews, those will be something that we do as well as we get closer to draft time. And the inclusiveness of the live comments. Jake and I have been doing our shows live since we started the show because we like the fact that people can be involved in the comment section. Steve has been great today. Steve's given us a whole bunch of comments during the show today. That's why we do the shows live, so that people can interact with us, ask us questions, give us their input, and things like that. That's why we do the shows live.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be streaming on both our current YouTube channel that we've already had. So if you follow us on our current YouTube channel, make sure to go follow the new Wisco Fanatics show. That one's going to say Wisco Fanatics and Optimistic and Realistic Wisconsin Sports Show. And after the NFL draft, the smaller of the two YouTube channels is going to be converted by me to another show. It's going to be more video type stuff than a live show, but it's going to focus on the bridge between sports fandom and mental health. It's going to be focusing on some mental health type topics and mindfulness type topics through the lens of sports fandom. It's a way that I feel that as a person that I am, that I can relate some really important topics to other people through being a sports fan. So that's what I'm going to use our current YouTube channel for when the other one is fully up and running, which we're gonna dual stream up until the end of the NFL draft, and then we're gonna have all of our audience onto the new YouTube channel. So we will see you guys then for that. Our schedule is out on Facebook and Instagram for what our entire Packers offseason shows are going to entail. Other than that, we will be back next Wednesday with more Badgers and Bucks basketball.